These are two substitute cards in the Visconti Sforza deck of tarot cards, supplied by Il Meneghello. And I say substitute cards because, as people who know this deck know, that it's not complete. And so the Tower here and the Devil, these are substitute cards, which I'm not... One thing that strikes me immediately about them is that as soon as you come to them, you can immediately see that they are substitute cards. And essentially, the reason is because the motifs, the actual images themselves, the Devil and the Tower, are really not in the same style as the rest of the deck. So that's the first thing. But it's not just the principal motifs. It's also, if you look here, let me get this right this around. If you look at the if you look at the gold leaf background there with the little patterns around the border, you can see, well, for example, on the top there, there's what they look like, almost like roses. There's like 1, 2, 3. Just a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's probably about 9 or 10 along the top there. If you look at this one, there are what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. That pretty well explains why you notice it immediately. The background on these is enlarged compared to the original. I don't really know why they would do that. It strikes me as being a rather strange decision to make, to do that, because it really makes them immediately stand out. They may have wanted them to immediately stand out, possibly, but they look crude as well in comparison. It gives them a crudeness. And as I say, even the images themselves, I find a bit out of keeping with the style of the rest of the deck. The towers, I don't have much to say about the tower as an image, because I've not really been able to find any particularly significant artistic images of the tower. So I'm not really going to say any more about that. What I would like to talk about is the Devil card, the actual image. It may well be an authentic Renaissance style image, but I would say that it's not particularly typical, and it's not particularly symbolic. It doesn't seem to really include as much symbolism as the imagery on the Tarot de Marseille decks, which have got the eyes on the knees and the face on the belly of the Devil. Those are particularly significant in symbolic terms, and they've chosen not to use an image as powerful as that here. I mean, this image is not without power, but I don't find it particularly effective. And as I say, I don't find it in keeping with the style of the deck. So I'm just going to remove those two for a second, because I want to show you what Los Scarabeo did to solve the problem in the Visconti Madroni deck. So these are their two substitute cards. And sorry, let me just pull this back a bit. They're a wee bit too close. See it? That's better. There we go. If I lean it back slightly, I get a bit more light. Right. Well, for start off, the figures are much more in proportion with the rest of the deck, and that immediately makes them feel as though they do belong to the deck. But also, as I say, I'm not going to say much about the Tower card, but certainly on the this actual image of the devil himself on this one, that's starting to. Although it's not got a face on the belly, it has got some rather strange vegetation kind of looking image element on the belly, which is a little strange. I find that image more uncanny in the way that many of the Renaissance images of devils, of Satan and demons actually are. And so I definitely prefer that. I think the imagery is stronger, still very much in keeping with Renaissance art, but also stylistically, I think it really fits in with the deck. Of course, if anybody is not all that familiar with these cards, you've got that incredibly rich gold patina on the background that attempts to give some sort of idea as to what the cards might have looked like when they were first done with gold leaf. Many people might think it's a bit too plasticky, but nevertheless, I find it's a very commendable effort at communicating what they would have looked like originally. I mean, it really is fantastic in terms of the gold, and as you can see, it's certainly not without detail. You just have to turn the cards backwards and forwards to really look to see what that detail is. But it's definitely there, as you can see now. And I love these cards, actually. I really, really, really like these cards. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good substitute on that one. And so now I just want to really kind of. These are some that I actually printed out from the internet of devils from the medieval period, which would be even before the Renaissance, just to prove that even as late as the Tarot de Marseille, which is quite a while after the Middle Ages, it is absolutely in keeping with the imagery of the devil with a face on his belly. It's interesting, this one that I'm showing you, because on a number of those Marseille decks with the devils, the main diabolical figure is sticking his tongue out. This is a really fascinating one, because the face on the belly is actually much more obscene than on the Tarot de Marseille decks. As you can see, the face is much closer, much lower down on the belly, so that the mouth is basically in the same place as the genitals. And interestingly enough, it's not the main face that's got the tongue stuck out, it's the actual very obscene face in the groin area that's got its tongue stuck out. You've also got this wonderful but awful juxtaposition of various different types of animal body parts that are all assembled to create this, figure. It's wonderful, really, that the arms and the legs, how they've got that sticky, bird-like kind of scaly as well. Feel on the limbs. It is actually absolutely disgusting, and it plays on a natural sense of hideousness, which I find very refreshing, because in today's politically correct culture, there's a tremendous pressure to try to sort of educate that natural response of revulsion at unnatural hideousness, for fairly obvious reasons, which I won't go into in great detail here, but they've obviously got to do with the normatization of sexual variance, these have got no such qualms at all about encouraging people to feel revolted by unnaturalness. This is truly disgusting. This one I thought was very interesting because anybody familiar with the tarot cards will immediately recognize it as reminiscent of the Wheel of Life. Except what's interesting here is the Wheel of Life is being turned actually by a demon, a devil. And if you can see that, if I can bring it closer, you can see that devil also has got the face on the belly, and it's got the bird claws again, and the animal horns. A real horrible mishmash of various different animal parts, which themselves are symbolic of greed, lust, aggression, and so on. Impulsiveness. Right now, this one is This is in disorientation. I'm not identifying these images. I just simply filched them off the internet. This one again is absolutely disgusting. You can't quite see, unfortunately. I need to print it out on glossy paper. If I bring it that close, you can just about see now. Just there, that's the face. You can see the two eyes there. That's the nose. But the mouth is essentially in the same place as a woman's vulva would be, or possibly an anus. Could be that, but the position looks more like a vagina. At the other end, of course, it's like the Saturn figure is eating, devouring human beings. It's a truly, truly horrible image, and it's extraordinary the way that it. Is it spitting out a human, or is it consuming a human in this orifice which has got a face and presumably teeth? So that would be like the vagina dentata, a vagina with teeth, which is kind of a mythological image, which again itself is really hideous and recollects the kind of predominantly male horror of the female genitals, which is probably a recollection of the experience of being born. I would imagine, that when birth is traumatic, and obviously that wouldn't just apply to males, but because of the sexual element that compounds it in males, and the incest taboo as well, that can make the whole thing really, really, really difficult for men to really get to grips with that image. Actually, there's an awful lot of taboo, unpleasant, mind-bending kind of aspects to that image. And finally, this one, which again is a pretty hideous image. It's almost like a kind of almost like a lion type image with a great big open mouth, which is clearly a mouth that's essentially acting like a gate to hell, and the demon is shoving things down into that horrible pit, as if they're being eaten up by this demon. And the demon that's sending them down, of course, there you can see it again, is that ghastly face on the belly. Which really is meant to symbolize appetitive passions, greed, all of the various types of appetite that can be transformed into greed and are transformed into greed on these demons. The head at the top, which when the demons confront saints, the saints always look supremely human and elevated, in refined. As often as not, they're looking up to heaven, and you have the sense of the the lightness of the intellect and the spirit. Here, of course, it's not just that you've got the face on the belly, which depicts a consciousness that is steeped in lust, but the ugliness of the face at the on the main head of the demon, which, as I say, in the saintly figures is almost always refined and tending to look towards heaven. Here, that face also, the entire head, in fact, is depicted as very animal-like, ugly, vulgar, aggressive-looking, animalistic, really, and then you've got all of the cloven hooves. You've got that whole thing again about the mixed elements, which really make the thing look hideous. And so just to come back to, just to remind you of what that one looks like, I mean, it's positively tame in comparison. I mean, this guy, well, to be honest, he looks like a guy of a fancy dress party. For me, it just doesn't, the strength of the symbolism is weak. And I don't find the strength of the symbolism weak in the rest of the tarot, although it doesn't depict evil necessarily. In fact, most of the tarot depicts challenges on the path to spiritual enlightenment or spiritual salvation. But yeah, this guy here just looks to me like somebody out of a fancy dress party. He doesn't, to me, really. It sort of vaguely, nominally has a symbolic content, but it isn't very lively. It's not very articulate. It's not scary, not even remotely scary, unlike the ones that I just showed you. And as I say, I still think this one does. It does have a flavour of that uncanniness that's in the printouts that I showed you from the Renaissance era. So there you are. And just to speak up again, I actually think that Los Scarabeo did an absolutely fabulous job on this Visconti Madroni deck. Really superb.